can see that this Hoya Sunrise, it's a hybrid between Obovada and Carnosa, I think. You see that? That's a new growth coming away there. It also has a lot of peduncles that have flower buds on them. One there, one there. I think it's going to start growing more from now because it's cooler at night and the days are still warm and tropical, but it has relatively cooled down now in late September. So Hoya Sunrise is able to put up with high temperatures. This room has gotten up to typically 35 degrees with the fan blowing, which is over there. Oscillating fan is on all the time. The oscillating fan gets turned up to about the medium, and I put it on rhythm so it mimics a breeze, but there's quite a lot of air coming out of there from that way during those hot days, because if I don't do it, the plants will get even more stressed and I don't know what would happen then. So I really need oscillating fans. I even use oscillating fans during the winter because airflow is optimal. You need airflow. I'm just going to move this over. Back here. This is Hoya. It's got really pubescent stems on there. You can see the hair is on it. Cordata. These are still just cuttings because I bought the plant as rooted cuttings in a pot in a nursery. And the growing medium is something that works for the nursery, but I find it hard to use, and I prefer to have something that has pumice in it and a little akadama for this one. It has put up with the heat really well, so cordata passes. Oh, I gotta move these things over. I'm in the middle of watering, so let's see. This is Hoya Retusa. Retusa seems to typically get yellow leaves and they drop off every now and then. I think that's just normal for it. This particular Hoya is a little way back, 15 centimeters back from the window. It's got the sheer curtain there. It took the heat. It's starting to grow. It's kind of one that I'm still deciding whether it's going to be okay or not in this environment. I'm going to hang that up here because I'm in the middle of watering. We did put out this long tendril here and that one. Linearis has been having a struggle, so I'm going to make a spot for it in the living room, because the living room has an air conditioner, and the air conditioner on most afternoons is set at about 24 degrees and the room temperature is about 25 degrees. And 25 to you guys might seem hot, but compared to 35 it feels cool. And this particular Hoya likes to be in those conditions. You can see it's gone bald, and that is not a watering problem or anything else. It's the heat. It's started to drop these leaves, and we were, especially when we got outside temperatures that were getting close to 40 degrees. So it does not like heat at all, and it's got to move. It needs a new home. So we're going to move it. Another plant that's put up with the high temperatures, and this room gets the hottest in the afternoon out of any other room. That west sun is just unbelievably hot. You have to experience it. And surprisingly, the peace lily has been able to put up with it. So I looked it up to find out more information about why you can put up with the heat, but we have this oscillating fan blowing, and a lot of people that live in a cooler climate, they don't have oscillating fans blowing. They just have it blowing occasionally, maybe 1 or 2 hours a day. But when you live in places that are this hot, you have to have it. If you do not have it, your plants are gonna brown up and crisp and start dropping everything. Even with humidity that's high, you still need to have this air blowing to keep the temperature from riding over 35 degrees. So what I did is I looked it up, and these are understory plants, so they grow close to rivers in their natural habitat in Asia. And what they do is they drink a lot of water and they transpire. They give off a lot of moisture out of their leaves, which brings the humidity up. And it's just that one thing that this plant has that makes it able to get through the heat, compared to a lot of plants that are not able to do that so much. So this is what saved it. And on the contrary, it really needs a lot of water. So you can see there that there's still a little bit of water left, and this plant hasn't produced any offsets during the summer, but I am expecting, I see a little nub in there, it's an offset. So it's just started to multiply itself once again in the cooler season. And it does have nice healthy roots. You can see them right there. And I'm pretty happy about it, because over here you have this Calathea Bell Marx. This one gets the same treatment as this peace lily. It doesn't have that adaptation quite as much, and it is really a cooler growing plant. And this is typically what happens during the summer here. It's out of my control. I'm not able to do anything about it unless I move it to the living room where the air conditioner is. This plant will pull through. So I'm going to repot it and clean it up, and it's going to move to the living room. Next to it, you may have heard a lot about Calathea Makoyana, because Makoyana is a lot more heat tolerant than Bell Marx here. And it is probably there's also the purple rose, and that thing was beautiful, but succumbed to the heat. The heat got to it, but this is able to pull through. So you can see that it has been pushing out new leaves. It's even got one coming up here, and I do give it some water. The water goes down in there and it drinks it up. But then also I need to bring it to the sink and top water it too, so that all the build-up of salts run out the bottom. I got to come over and do a little more of a clean up with the dead foliage. So you'll often hear a lot that you water it and you let it dry out, or you let it dry out slightly before watering it again, otherwise you'll cause root rot. But here in the tropics during the summertime it's the opposite. You keep water down in there about 1/2 inch because it demands water all the time, and it sends roots out that are kind of like water roots that are coming out the bottom of the pot there. During the winter time, its watering schedule changes, and I tend to top water it and drain out what's left in there because it'll just stay moist enough. So Makoyana can survive the heat. Another one that's extremely heat tolerant is philodendron, the hardleaf philodendron, or the sometimes the names don't come to me, not because I forget the names, it's just that I'm not saying them enough, so they go right back in the back of my memory there. It's been growing, you can see here, and it hangs out right by that window that gets extremely hot, and I pull the shutter down. You can see that, and I close the window. But today, nice and cool, getting into late September. This plant is native to Cuba, Honduras, going into South America. So typically in Cuba they do have a dry season. It's 3 months, so you can put up with dryness, you can put up with a lot of heat too. It's very heat resistant, so it keeps passing the test every year for me. Over here, begonia. Now there's not many begonias you can grow in this kind of heat. Now there's one thing that would kill it, and that's if I left this shutter up and the heat comes through, that would burn the begonia. But it is put up with 35-degree heat in this room, sweaty hot, and that's pushing it. It has had a haircut, you can see here, and it's put out these new leaves. I cut it about 2 weeks ago, and I put these cuttings in water because I couldn't plant them. It was still too hot and they would just rot in the pot. There's just nowhere cool enough. And when I do repot it, I'm going to put a couple of cuttings in that are starting to produce their first roots. I don't want them to produce any more. They're just starting to pop out now, and yeah, I'm going to let it grow on. But this is proved to get through the heat. It always looks its best in autumn and springtime, and also in the winter. You can go down to 10 degrees in this room. Peace lily, this is just the normal miniature one. Loves a lot of water. It's put up with the heat very well. Should flower during the cooler seasons. Philodendron Brazil is another one that is put up with the heat in this room. Right at this moment it is 26 degrees, 70% humidity. 26, and to me that's cool. I feel cool. You can see here that it's putting out new growth. 1, 2, 3, and I'm always ready to give it a trim. I give it a trim maybe 3 or 4 times a year to keep it healthy and everything like that. It really needs a repot, so what I've done is I put the cuttings in water in this plant. When I do come to repot it, I have to trim it back to about half, which is no problem. It'll just make it branch out a lot more. Really needs a repot. It hasn't had one for over 3 years. Alright, and of course Haworthias do really well in here, easily. Tillandsias, absolutely no problem whatsoever. They just need to be watered every second day during this tropical weather. And of course I've mentioned this Zygo cactus, which surprisingly put up with the heat and it's been pushing out new growth. It's still quite tender until it hardens off and, you know, puts a lot more thickness in the leaf there. But it's going to have a nice display of flowers. This Tillandsia here is a bit burnt on one side because one day I took them out on my hanger to water them and I went to work and I forgot them, and I paid for that because I lost a couple from this pot. There was two that were grown on the other side and they died because they got cooked, and once they get cooked it takes some time before they die off. Another one that's put up with the heat are the Hoyas, of course, Daikie and Callistophylla. Callistophylla is a little bit more sensitive when it comes to heat, especially direct sun. Direct sun will actually kill this plant pretty fast. You do need a sheer curtain if you live in a hot climate like I am here. If you live in a cooler climate and your summer is around 25 degrees maximum, I think some direct sun will be okay, but here it really does stress it out and make it drop leaves. They go yellow first and then they drop off pretty quickly. Peperomia Hope is one that's been doing really well. It's sensitive to overwatering, so what I mean about that is I don't keep water in the cache pot. It quickly rots the roots, so it lets me know that this is pretty epiphytic in its growing habit. It tends to like growing on mosses and on wet logs in the tropics of South America, but however a lot of air gets around the roots, so it likes to be watered and then it likes to dry out and then get a water and any excess to be tipped out. I've had nothing but trouble if I leave water in it. The first leaves to go are the ones close to the bottom. They'll go yellow and then they'll go translucent and then all mushy. And it's happened not once or twice, it's happened numerous times, so I know. And another one that does put up with heat, of course, is the Hoya Carrii. This is the variegated one, and it has 3 new leaves, and there's a new one coming out that I can't even see anymore. I wonder why I can't see it. Let's see. The reason why I can't see it anymore is because it's growing fast. That's why. I'm looking for a little tiny thing like this. And so that's been a week. It's grown from this size to that size in a week. So that's why I couldn't find it. It's grown pretty quick. It's in a mix of bark, pumice, and akadama. If you don't know what akadama is, I use it with my houseplants. For orchids, I can use carnuma. And carnuma is really good for orchids that are lithophytic because that stuff will retain moisture. It'll also evaporate, and the excess moisture will evaporate pretty quickly, and it needs to be watered regularly because that kind of soft hummusy volcanic clay will dry out really quick, but it's almost like the equivalent of them growing on rocks. You should try it out sometime. You'll really like it. What else? Oh, I'm really happy that my Hoya rotundifolia is looking better, and I'm glad that it's cooled down now so that these plants can actually go back into their normal routine of growing. That's one point that I forgot to bring up, is that during this super hot temperatures that get up to 35 in this room, there are plants that like some water in the reservoir and there are some that don't. And when it does get hotter, sometimes, depending on the plant, adding more water doesn't really help the plant at all. What really helps it is air circulation, and if I can, open a window early in the morning. But as it gets on to about 8 o'clock in the morning during the summer, which the hottest part is July and August, extremely hot air will come through, so I have to shut the windows. There are some plants that still like water even in those hot temperatures and still put out growth, and that's the Penthes here. The Penthes Gaia. It's just started to grow the best now because we have cooler temperatures at night, so it's been going down to about 23 degrees. During the hottest times, it doesn't go down any lower than 27 or 28. And because of the extreme heat during the day, that's the weather index or gross heat. But the heat that's accumulated in the ground plus the humidity makes it feel like 40 degrees. So you cannot open the window during the evening or at night. You have to use the air conditioner. The house is just roasting hot. And these plants need to cool down, so they do appreciate the air conditioner, because without that, life in Japan would be impossible. I cannot imagine living in here during the summertime. I would give up and end up sleeping outside. So in case you're wondering why you see some people that do some weird things like sleeping out on the street, you see them lying out on a bench or in the garden, I understand from living here all these years that if you don't have an air conditioner, you will die, okay? A lot of elderly people die of heat stroke indoors inside their house during the summer in Japan, because they don't recognize the symptoms. And the symptoms are pretty hard to recognize if you don't have any experience. And the usual symptoms of heat stroke is a running nose. You have to keep blowing it like you've got a cold. You will have, some people will have a loss of appetite. You also have a dull headache to a severe headache that won't go away. And so you have the running nose. Also, you can have a cough, a consistent cough that makes you feel like you've got a cold. But that's your immune system. Your immune system has been put under such stress that you end up with the symptoms of a cold, and then you're mistaken it for that, but it's actually heat stroke. And a lot of people suffer from it on and off. Those of us that are younger and are sportsmen, they are able to overcome it because of their youth. But as you get older and you get that, you've got to be careful. So these plants are no different than us. They do get their stresses and they show them up in their leaves, root system. And if you are my Ripsalis here, this Ripsalis that I keep forgetting the name of, I've got to put a tag in there. It showed its stress by dropping off a lot of the tips of the leaves or a lot of branches, and you can see that I've put them back into the media and some of them are starting to grow again. This may be one I have to move to the living room because it does require a cooler night. And that one's been showing its stress. You can see that this one and only Phalaenopsis is putting out a new leaf here. It's been growing. It has it has a nice spot right here when this window is open. There's the fan blowing, sheer curtain, and because this window is far away from it, and the west room is actually the next room over from this room. And the shutters are put down. It's able to get through the summers with little to no damage, and it retains up to 4 leaves at a time, so it's not super lush. Could I call it thriving? Well, kind of. And it's got a good root system there. It's got a nice open mix. This one is not growing in sphagnum moss at all. One mistake I can make is up the watering with the orchids. Oh, it's getting hotter. More water, more water. It's a total mistake. Absolute mistake. They have to experience some dryness in between watering. A lot of people will say wet and dry cycle, but I've got to make it more clear that they require a dry cycle to be dry. Kind of like if you have a shower and then you wipe yourself off all the moisture off your body. They like that. They don't like to be wet after they have their shower. They like it to dry off. They require it, the root system. If the root system is wet constantly, it starts to cause rotting. Now the reason why that they grow well outdoors in a hot tropical climate like here, I have one of these mounted. The only reason why that can put up with water, rain, and then the rain will stop, and then you get some fine weather, and then you get rain again, on and off. It could be daily. The reason why that is able to stay healthy is because it's got all the airflow around it, and plus it's not in a pot at all. So as soon as that rain stops, it starts to evaporate really quickly. So they do require to be dry. They need dryness in between watering. This one is Orostachys polystachya, that's native to Madagascar. I've just mentioned this before, but this is an update from that video. You can see the green tip there. It's starting to come into growth because the evenings are cooler. This one I soaked the moss and I drained out the excess water and I let it dry right out. If it was outside, I wouldn't have it in a pot. I'd have it on a mount. You can just get watered whenever. And over here, these lovely new leaves on my Hoya Matilda, which has undergone a great transformation, you could call it, because what it did do is it died off all of its much older branches and leaves throughout the summer, and it's been replacing them with the new growth, which are these vines here coming out everywhere. So I've had a lack of flowers because of that, because this plant has renewed itself. It's renewed its foliage, gotten rid of the old foliage, and so I have to expect that. But it has put out some great peduncles all over it. There's numerous peduncles that are going to take over, and this one is absolutely strangled with roots. And you can see there that there's still some slow release in there, but however it doesn't mind it. It is still able to grow perfectly well, because being an epiphyte, do I have to lecture? Probably not, but I just got to mention once more that epiphytic plants, they can be all tied up in a root ball. Stop pulling them out and stop repotting them every 1 or 2 years. Just leave them alone. All you do is add slow release. If it gets yellowing leaves, it's 2 signs. Number 1, overwatering. Number when it doesn't need that much. Number two is it has a lack of certain fertilizers. You need to put gypsum, dolomite lime, you need to put it once a year in there, a little bit. I forget the measurement. Let me see here. 1 gram. 1 gram of dolomite lime to help the plant gather calcium and some magnesium into the plant's roots. Number two, get the pH back to around 7. After using fertilizers, the pH is going to ride up higher and higher and higher, and you need to flush your plants out. So who said that you don't do that? That's nonsense. You can see the salts on the pot, but there is nothing in the medium because it gets drained out. And you can see the lovely roots on the surface there, very healthy. Next one that you must use is magnesium sulfate or Epsom salts up to 3 times a year to give the essential magnesium and sulfur into the plant. This is why this plant is so healthy. What we're going to do is take it down so you can have a look. Let me move my Tillandsia here. This is the next one I gotta water anyway. Slowly but surely bring it out. Can you see the growth on this? So you may wonder if you had an answer A or B. Has this plant been repotted recently? A, no, and B, yes. Everyone's going to say yes, huh? Because look at all that growth. All of that growth that you see here is all new. All of the older growth is almost entirely gone. You can see a little shriveled up bit there. There's nothing remaining of the older growth. You can see one leaf there, right? That's from the older growth. That's about it. All of the rest of it is new. And look at those lovely roots in there. Can you see them? Lovely, lovely, healthy roots. Root-bound Hoya. Absolutely fine. Looks like this Miltonia is starting to push out some roots right there. You can see them. So it's up for a repot. So I gotta get on with that. What else can I show you? Nepenthes ventricosa. It's been putting out pictures and then they go crispy, and there can only be one thing: it's too hot. So it should put out new pictures that mature better. It's obviously not fond of the heat, but Gaia is able to put up with it, probably because it's mixed with a species from Philippines. And I think that's about it for now. We got this Haworthia here. Spider White, it's called, but it's a limifolia. Hasn't produced offsets at all, but it still remained as a one single rosette. You can see that this is starting to produce its bulbs on this Ceropegia woodii, and these are the ideal places to take cuttings. You just plant these bulbs just under the surface, and then they sprout and start growing. But I gotta give this a haircut again, it's getting too long. Also helps it to push out some new foliage from the top of the plant. Got a dead leaf there. I'm just going to get on and clean that up. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate you watching my programs and coming along with me. I do this YouTube because I love to share my passion for plants, and that's my main purpose. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and at least you learned something along the way. And I definitely learn stuff by watching your programs, if you have any. And once again, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.